Hello, this is Gyles Brandreth with the Rosebud podcast, where my guest today is Akshata Murty. I met her through her husband, Rishi Sunak, when he was Prime Minister. I heard her story and found it fascinating. I think you will too. This is Rosebud with Akshata Murty. Enjoy. Akshata Murty. Is that correctly pronounced?
Very, very much so. Thank you for making the effort.
Is the Akshata a first name and the Murty a surname?
Correct. Akshata is my first name, and it means infinity in Sanskrit.
In Sanskrit, infinity.
And so in Hindu weddings, Giles, towards the end of the ceremony, some holy rice is sprinkled on the couple. And that rice is called Akshata.
Akshata. Actually, we're saying Akshata.
Well, it's Akshata, Akshata, Akshata. All work.
But which do you prefer? I want to get it right.
Do you know what? I've lived away from home for so long that I'm actually comfortable with all versions of them. In India, it's Akshata.
Akshata.
That's it.
Akshata.
Yes.
Akshata.
And so the holy rice is called Akshata, and that signifies that the couple their bond will remain together forever.
Lovely. For infinity, forever.
Forever.
And it's Hindu.
It's a Hindu name and a Hindu tradition.
And you are of Hindu upbringing?
Yes, I was raised in a Hindu family, and I'm practicing Hindu, yes.
You were born, that's how I've got this right, on the 25th of April 1980.
Yes.
And I'm now going to ask you, what is your very first memory, Akshata?
Such a lovely question. I'll tell you this, Giles, I might get quite emotional. My very first memory is of this man. He used to visit me quite regularly. I was probably between 2 and 3 years old. And I remember him being really kind, really generous. He seemed quite sophisticated. He spoke to me in English, not in my mother tongue. I grew up speaking Kannada, which is a language spoken in southern India. But he would speak to me in English. He enforced no rules. He made me the center of his world. I felt like a princess. And I was always heartbroken when he left. And that man, Giles, was my dad.
Oh, my. And why was he visiting only on odd occasions?
Because I, until I was about age 5, grew up with my grandparents and not with my parents.
Did you realize this man was your father?
And I've thought about that. I think I was told it, certainly. And I called him Appa, which is the traditional name for dad in my language, Kannada. So I knew it intellectually, I'm sure. But it was almost like he was more. He just was this special person in my life. And he came and he went. And I have this image in my head of lying down next to him. He had a nap every afternoon. And I would just stare at him. I mean, I still remember the crook of his arm, what he wore. He would wear this Indian pajama, checked pajama bottom. And it's just so, I mean, you could see I get visibly moved thinking about that memory. And even to this day, as you rightly said, I'm 46 almost. He's one of the most special people in my life.
Where is this memory taking place? Where are you? At your grandparents' home?
So yes. So I was born and raised in a small town in southern India called Hubli.
Hubli.
Hubli. And I was born in my maternal grandparents' home. My grandfather was an OB-GYN surgeon, and my grandmother...
A what surgeon?
An obstetrics and gynecologist.
OB-GYN.
Yes.
That sounds for obstetrics and gynecology, does it? I love it. You young mothers, this is the language you speak.
Sorry.
OB-GYN. Very good.
Yes. And my grandmother was a homemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And they made their family home in Hubli, which was at the time in the 80s, a small town. I would say a dusty small town. It was very hot all the time, still is, I think. To me, it was just absolutely joyful to grow up there. One image I have from when I was little is, in India, the mango season is a big part of the calendar. It's around now, actually, sort of mid-March all the way through mid-May. And during mango season, my grandmother would put me in a white dress, a sleeveless white short dress, and lunch was mangoes. And we wouldn't chop them up, or we would literally suck them whole, the fruit whole, and it was just so joyful.
So why are you having to live with your grandparents?
Yeah.
You have a father, this mystery man, we can discover more, and I assume you have a mother as well.
Yes.
And they were married.
Yes.
And who was your mother?
So maybe I'll take a couple of steps back.
Do.
My father was born in 1946. I say an almost midnight's child. India gained independence in 1947. He came from a family of 8. But my paternal grandfather, who I never met, who sadly passed away before my parents were even married, he was an idealist. And he would encourage my father and his brothers and sisters, as they got older, to think really hard about what they can do for the newly independent India. What value could they add to India, to this young nation? And I think that really planted a seed inside my dad on how whatever he did later on in life, it had to benefit the nation in some way.
But the nation, not just the community or
Not
the
just
village.
the nation.
Wow.
And then you have my mother, whose father was a doctor, and she also spent a lot of time with her grandparents. And so now we're talking about my mother's grandfather. So my maternal great-grandfather. He wanted to be a lawyer. And when he took the course on, he was told very early on that if you're a lawyer, you might sometimes have to twist the truth. And he said, this isn't for me. So he gave that up and became a history teacher. So she grew up with these incredible stories also of India. And for her, it was ancient India and Indian myths and Indian heritage and traditions. And so you have these two people, strip them to their kind of basics, and they are both motivated by nationhood.
And how do they meet? Where do they meet?
They meet through a mutual friend in another larger town called Pune. Today it's called Pune in India. It's in near-ish Bombay, Mumbai. And they were introduced to each other because they both loved books. And my father was sort of this quite geeky, reserved intellectual who read books all the time. And my mother was quite an outgoing, adventurous, optimistic young woman, but also loved books. My father loved physics and maths, and my mother loved history and literature. So together they have the full repertoire. Anyway, so a mutual friend introduced them. And they were dating before dating was considered au fait. Yes.
What did their parents think about them dating?
Yes.
Because this is an era where the expectation would be the two families would decide, here is a cousin or a friend of the family who would be an appropriate person for you to marry.
The arranged marriage concept, you mean. Do you know, that was certainly the norm.
Oh.
My parents defied the norm.
Gosh. And what did their parents make of that? They didn't mind. They accepted it.
They accepted it eventually, let's say. But both my parents were incredibly focused on making that partnership work. I think my mother even made a statement at one point where she said to my grandfather, okay, so if you don't agree for me to marry Murthy, my father, that's fine. It's just I won't ever get married then. So she took a stand. And here's one of the many best things about their marriage. So prior to their meeting, they each signed books they purchased in a bookshop or whatever, with their name and the date. And once they got together, they would start signing books with both their names and the date. And even now, in our library at home, every single book in our library has both their names and the date, and a lot of the times the location where they purchased the book.
So they were building a library together.
They were building a library together.
And how many children did they have? How many siblings do you have?
So it's me and my younger brother. He's 3.5 years younger. And we're very close.
And when they married, though, what was the plan for them to do for their careers? What was their expectation?
So I think my father did come from a family where it was hard to make ends meet, and he knew that he needed to get a job that could help support his mother, his siblings who were the youngest siblings. So he realized that technology, i.e. computers, was where the world was heading, and he had a brain for engineering, so he studied to be an engineer. And then my mother, again, quite unorthodox, she loved history, she loved people, she was very bright. So she was advised by my grandfather to be a doctor. He was a doctor. My mother's older sister is a doctor. And she didn't think she wanted to be a doctor. Yet she also knew that in order to have a good job, you needed a professional degree in those days. And the choices were limited. So she said, well, I'll be an engineer then. And my grandparents were horrified because women didn't go into engineering. And I'm talking now in the mid-70s in southern India. So she was the only woman engineer in her university. And she tells me these stories, and she told me these stories growing up, where if she needed to use the loo, she would have to come back home because there wasn't even a women's loo at university.
Because there'd never been any women engineers before.
Correct. And by the way, candidly, I think in that time in India, if a girl was overeducated, it was harder to find a groom. That's also, I think, why she felt so understood by my father, who was never threatened by any of that. Anyway, so she now says, okay, now I need to look for a job. And she's looking at a few different opportunities, and she reads about one in the paper. And it says it's for an engineering position at this company called Telco, which was at the time India's largest car manufacturing plant. And it says X, Y, and Z qualifications required. She had all of those qualifications. And it said something like, women need not apply. And so, of course, my mother reads this and says, well, if that's what they're saying, I'm going to apply.
Oh.
So she writes a letter to the chairman, JRD, the late JRD Tata of the Tata fame and family. And there's still a very well-respected business in India. And she says, well, I saw this letter, I saw this ad even, and I'm really disappointed. And I feel I'm just as qualified. So at the very least, I request you to interview me. And she thought nothing would come of it and forgot about it. And I think a few weeks later, because back in the day when you relied on physical mail.
The post,
The post, yes. She received a letter from Mr. Tata's office to come to Bombay to be interviewed. She made her way there, interviewed with him, got the job.
She met the great man. She went straight to the top.
She met
the great man. Chairman. The chairman said, come and see me.
Yes. And she got a job to work at Telco, which involved working in offices and on the factory floor. And again, there was the only female engineer on the factory floor. So this has been my mother's journey. And from then on, she has taken other adventures on.
But we'll come on to those other adventures. What we've got, though, is these two people, two engineers, who get together.
Yes.
And it's actually a love match and a fellow feeling match, which is
Absolutely
possibly not part of the tradition of their families,
Correct.
but the families have to accept it. They get married. They begin to have children quite quickly, I assume.
Couple of years later. Yeah, because they dated for 4 years. And so when they got married...
While the family was getting used to it.
Yes, yes,
And
exactly.
I don't know. We think of India as being a traditional society.
Yes.
When you say they dated, we mean they dated. They didn't move in together.
No, they did not move in together, no.
So they are dating, they
Yes.
get married, they then move in together.
Yes.
And then children come along.
Children come along,
And
yes.
the expectation would be that the parents would bring up the children, wouldn't they? Or,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and so why didn't they?
So there's a short answer and a long answer. And the short answer was they had me, 1980, and my mother tried. They were both working full time because there was no concept of maternity leave. My mother had me in Hubli and then took me to Pune, where they were living and working at the time. And they tried, but childcare they couldn't afford high quality childcare. My mother had to work full time, as did my dad. And it became impossible to have a newborn and 2 full-time jobs. So when I was 90 days old, my mother met her sister, my aunt, and her mother, my maternal grandmother, in the airport in northern Karnataka, and handed me over and said, from now on, she is your daughter. And
What do you feel about this? I sense you feel some conflict about this.
do you know, Giles, I've genuinely thought about whether I feel conflict. I think I feel emotional. I feel emotional because I am so close to my mother. I am equally close to my mother's older sister, my aunt. And I was very close to my maternal grandmother, my late maternal grandmother, who always told me, by the way, that she was the same age as the late Queen. So she had great respect for the late Queen. So she passed away in 2012. But I feel so close to these 3 women. And Mother's Day would roll around and I would send 3 Mother's Day cards. And as I've gotten older, I have asked myself, have I felt resentment towards my parents? And I genuinely don't. I really don't. I feel sadness, and the sadness I feel is for my mother to let go of this newborn and your first child. I think my mother feels sadness. My mother felt sadness, and I think she still feels sadness, but not resentment.
But it is unusual.
It is unusual, yes.
That your mother literally gives you away when you're only 3 months old. And as a consequence of that, she almost becomes like an auntie to you.
Exactly.
That she visits you
Yes.
as an auntie might. And your father is almost this magic charmer.
He is.
Who comes and you realise there's this lovely man in my life wearing these amusing pyjamas. What fun he is. We're not quite sure what our relationship are. I called him father, but anyway, he keeps going away. That is a bit unusual.
It is.
And they are choosing to do this because they together have this feeling that they are going to give their first duty is maybe not to be parents, but to fulfill this ambition of giving something to India.
To their nation.
Something huge. And what we're going to discover is that in their different ways, they both managed to do that because they're starting out doing it because they haven't got any money
Yes.
to bring you up.
Yes.
But if what I read in the papers is right, your father is now one of the wealthiest people in all India, if not possibly the world. So he didn't waste his time when he came back to charm you, because the rest of the time he was out there doing whatever he did to make his fortune. How did he make his fortune? What was he doing when he wasn't with you, your dad?
So he was in the midst of setting up this company for which he is now well known. Called Infosys.
Yeah.
He founded it in 1981.
Yeah, when you were a year old.
Yes, that's right. And in fact, even to this day, my father will tell you if he was sitting here. He has 3 children. Me, born in 1980. Infosys, born in 1981. And my brother, born in 1983.
Which is his favourite? Or probably he's not allowed to have favourites.
No, he's not. And if you said to me when I was younger what you felt about Infosys before I had my own family, I wouldn't be lying if I said Infosys, this amorphous entity in some ways, is my sibling. I mean, I have all my memories of growing up are so deeply intertwined with the building of Infosys. I mean, I remember the first office, the day that my father signed his first contract. My mother and I would host Infosys birthday parties. I mean, on and on the list goes. So,
he's still alive?
My father, yes.
Is he still running the company, head of the company?
Not at all, no.
Oh, he's...
Because he set it up, Gyles, not to be, unlike a lot of other Indian companies, this wasn't a family business. He set it up as a professional entity. So he got 5 younger, what he called co-founders, to set the company up in 1981. And he borrowed what today is £50, 6,000 Indian rupees of savings from my mother as startup capital, because my father didn't come from money. He was a man with a dream. I mean, the original Silicon Valley tech bro, if you think of it. And he also wanted to prove that in the modern India, it didn't matter who you were or what money you had or didn't have or who you knew, as long as you had a dream and you worked hard.
Knowing him well, which I assume you now do,
yes.
though you didn't maybe as a little girl,
yeah.
What did he have that enabled him to take £50, the equivalent of £50, and turn it into literally billions in a lifetime? What are the qualities as a person that he had?
I mean, that's such a great question, but I'll say it wasn't just him.
No,
you know,
of course,
he inspired a team, and it took time, so it wasn't an overnight success at all. So that was the journey. But the question is, what are those qualities? I'll tell you what the Infosys motto was when he founded it. It was powered by intellect, driven by values. And so he was a mix of the two. You know, he had deep intellect and intellectual rigor for computer science and technology. But he, and still is today, he is deeply passionate about the values he stands for, which are honesty, which he calls integrity, resilience, hard work. And he said this when he founded Infosys. He would tell his younger colleagues, I'm not looking to build the most profitable business. I'm not looking to build the most well-known business. I'm not looking to build the largest business. I'm looking to build the most respected business.
And did he succeed in that, do you think?
And he did. And I think even as the technological wave was sweeping over India, Infosys was always known for being the company that stood out because they had the highest levels of integrity.
And what's his greatest, in your view, philanthropic achievement? The good works that he's done, that you pick me one. Give me one.
Sure. I mean, my mother's done a lot that is more tangible or maybe even understandable in day-to-day settings. But I'll tell you, my father is a huge believer in social mobility. And through setting Infosys up, and you know, he came up with this concept, which had been around, but he used it actively in the setting up of his business. It's called compassionate capitalism. So make money, but make money while you're also being compassionate to everyone around you, whether that be your employees, whether that be your shareholders, whether that be your vendors, whether that be the community in which you sit and operate, whether that be to your customers. So he took on this concept of the employee stock option plan that was well known on the West Coast. So you set up a company and you give a small piece of the business to your employees. Yeah. So when the company does well,
they do well too.
Everyone does well. Yeah. It's not just the salary, but you get a part of the business. And that was not the norm when my father set up Infosys. That was not the norm in Indian industry.
He had 3 children, the middle one being Infosys.
Yes.
Is probably the one that had most attention during your early years. What is your sweetest memory of him, your happiest memory of you with your dad when you were a little girl?
Absolutely. So he would travel a lot because the client base for Infosys was always international, foreign clients. And so there were years when he traveled truly 350 days during the year.
What? 350 days
absolutely.
On the road, flying around the world?
Yes.
Selling whatever Infosys
Selling
was.
software.
Selling software.
Yes. And I'm not saying that was every year, but there were some years. Wow. And so when he was in town, it was a very special time.
I bet.
Much like that memory I described to you at the beginning. And he had this tradition. He would take my younger brother and I out to this restaurant. It was called Mac's Fast Food in Bangalore. And he loved it because it was both Indian and Western. Mm-hmm. And we ate pizzas and he had some Indian food. And there was a toy shop around the corner called Sapphires. And I always got a new Barbie doll and my brother got a new He-Man toy figure. And we ended up having so many dolls and figurines because that was my father's way of showing, I don't want to say showing love, but giving us his time and building that connection with us. And it's etched in my memory. So when my children, I don't know if it's still around these shops, but they were certainly around a decade ago. So I took my kids and they somehow didn't find it as exciting as I did.
Is there a gap, though, in your life, in your head, through having had, obviously, I mean, that must be bonuses, because eventually his great wealth brings you comfort and maybe enables you to do things you might otherwise have been able to do. But do you feel, well, I missed out on this and that? I mean, do you think about that? Do you ensure that your husband, Rishi, does not give himself totally over to work? And there are years when he's only available out of 365 days, only 15 of those is he available to his family.
I think Rishi's of a different generation where the concept of parenthood is much more shared. Rishi also, while he has had a very busy few years, you and I know that, Gyles, he was around when the girls were much younger. He was a local MP. He still is a local MP. We established a home in North Yorkshire. So we had that time together before he got into frontline politics. And so I think 2 things. One, I grew up where I didn't feel this dearth. And so I didn't think, when I had my children, gosh, I don't want my family to be that way. So whenever Rishi was busy and couldn't focus as much, say, on family life, that's all I knew growing up. And that made a lot of sense to me. And this is where this kind of bigger entity that was in my life growing up, Infosys, but India, the bigger cause was always India. So when I look at it the same way with Rishi, there is something bigger.
Gosh.
For better or worse, that's how I think about it.
Well, most unusual. So what was your mother's contribution? We're going to get back to your family life in a moment with the aunties and your grandparents.
Yes.
But what was your mother's contribution to India? What has it been in her life?
Sure. So she engaged in so many projects, big and small. So I'll give you an example of a big and a small. So she because of my father, she saw the power of entrepreneurship to transform lives. And so she started giving out these micro grants to men and women who didn't have a job or were in transition periods of their lives to start very small businesses. And those were one-off grants, and it was a tailoring shop or it was a corner shop. Some people bought a couple of cattle and started a milking business. But then she and you know, this love for books that I talked to you about, she said, look, I'm going to build a library in every village in my state. Because every child should be exposed to reading and books.
This is a large state, I imagine.
It's a large state, that's right. And she started small. So she went to villages around Hubli, where she grew up. And these kids didn't know what a library was. And she would start in a little shop, would carry some books. It then grew in some places to someone's home, a room dedicated in sort of the local head's home. And then as that grew, she started doing this in schools. And then as that grew, she had standalone buildings. And then she expanded it out of the state. I wish I had the numbers for you, but tens of thousands of libraries across India. And very cleverly, she put books in the local language. And as you know, Gyles, India is not just one language. And for her, it was to get young people to discover the joy of reading, because that's how she became curious about the book.
And then she then became a writer.
Right from when she was probably a teenager, she wrote for fun. And now she writes primarily in English. She writes primarily for children. She writes about a few different topics. She writes on Indian mythology, and it's our version of sort of Greek tales, ancient Greek tales. She does that for ancient India. She writes kind of like Aesop's fables, you know, stories with a moral ending that she has acquired through her life experiences, but also the experiences that she got creating the foundation.
But what is extraordinary is, doing my homework, I looked up best-selling authors in India, and she turns out to be possibly the best-selling children's author in the whole of India, which may now be the most populous country in the world, if not.
It is. Yes,
so,
it is now,
I mean, what we're talking about here, these two extraordinary people who happen to be your parents, who aren't just achievers, but super achievers. And the lesson I'm learning is, if you want to be a super achiever, give your children to the grandparents to free up the time to get on with what you want to do. But you have covered that because your family was very loving and giving.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me about village life when you're a little girl. Because now you live this super sophisticated life. When you were a tiny little girl, what was village like? What did you eat? I mean, I know about the mangoes.
Yes,
besides those.
The mangoes were a big part of the diet, especially in certain times of the year. So Hubli was not quite a village, but it wasn't a city. So it was a small town. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was still a practicing doctor at the time. And he himself was quite unorthodox, because trust a man in the 50s to pick obstetrics and gynecology as his profession when women didn't want to go to male doctors, but anyway, so he was still and he worked for the local government hospital, we say in India, but you know, the NHS.
Is it like it is in this country? Are there classes, in the sense that would it right to describe this as a middle class family?
Exactly,
because they're professional people.
Exactly, middle class. My grandfather had saved enough to build his own home. It was a lovely bungalow. 3 bedrooms with a mango tree in the backyard, green mangoes, I can still picture them, so fragrant, coconut trees, gooseberry trees. You know, you grow up in the tropics, those are the advantages. They enrolled me in a little nursery school, and I was actually talking to my mother's older sister, my aunt, earlier this week. And she was reminding me that this nursery school was literally in a ditch, and it was called the ditch school. You know, it was not fancy at all. So today, you know, we all worry about where we send our kids to school and nursery.
In a ditch.
It was literally in a ditch, yeah.
Oh, it's by the side of the road. Get down to the ditch.
That's it.
That's where the lesson's taking place.
That's it, yes. And I studied in Canada. I didn't speak a word of English till I was 5.
You spoke the local language.
I spoke
But when did you
Kannada.
move to Bangalore?
At 5.
And is that a cultural change? Bangalore
That was a cultural
is a big-
change. It was a big city.
Yeah.
I also had to move away from living with my grandparents to now living with my parents.
Oh.
And that was hard because I hadn't really ever lived just with them. So we were now that nuclear family in a different city, in a big city. All my childhood friends lived in Hubli. And that was a big move for a 5-year-old. So I remember I took my grandmother's sari as my teddy to sleep with every night because I was so attached to her. But, I've had a life, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit about this. I've had a life of big transitions, Gyles, and maybe it started young, and you get on with it.
You just get on with it.
That's
so in Bangalore, you're seeing more of your father, or is he out at work?
I'm seeing more of my father, of course I am, because they made a conscious decision to set up the headquarters for Infosys in Bangalore. Yeah. Before that, it was sort of working from their apartment and things like that in Pune. And yes, we had a more traditional family unit. My brother was born and he was 2 and a bit by then. And I enrolled in school reception.
Did you do well at school?
I did well at school, yes. I did well at school, but...
and were you popular? Were you liked?
I wouldn't say I was one of the popular kids. I was one of the quieter kids. I was understated, and I was hugely passionate about history, literature, and writing. And
did you in your head already think, this is what I'm going to do? I mean, when you're 10 or 11, you're beginning to think what my life is going to be or not?
I did.
And what did you hope for?
Do that's quite complicated, and I'll tell you why. I grew up in this family of super achievers. In the India I grew up, if you did well at school, then you went into either engineering or medicine, much like my mother. I felt that if I had to make my parents proud, I should be an engineer. But I didn't relate to it. It didn't speak to me. And so I had this conflict in my head where I sort of knew what I loved. I mean, I knew what I loved, but I felt like I should love something else. And ultimately, I did end up becoming an engineer. And
you did?
I did not.
You did not.
No. I studied economics and French.
Well, both quite complicated.
But I think at the time, I felt like I was letting my parents down.
And at your next school, your secondary school,
Yes.
you go on being quite a good achiever?
I do, yes.
Was it a boys' school and a girls' school?
It was an all-girls school.
All-girls school?
Yes.
Yeah. But did you have any crushes?
I did. So, I went to an all-girls school,
Yeah.
so it was slim pickings when it came to boys. But my mother, who was a professor at this women's college, she did her day job, which was to teach computer science. But again, she loves people. She loves mentoring young people. So she became the unofficial school's kind of counselor. And so she would finish teaching at, say, midday or 2 p.m. And then she would open it up to help young women navigate life. So there would be lines and lines around her office, not of young women coming to ask her questions or about the computer science curriculum, but about love and life and rifts they'd had with their parents or what they should do when they grow up. And so she had one student she was particularly close to who she was helping. And the student had a younger brother, and he was a couple of years older. He played the guitar. He wore Pink Floyd T-shirts. Again, this girl who was brought up in quite a traditional upbringing. You meet this boy. He played rock music, listened to rock music. It just felt so exciting. He didn't know, of course. It was just me staring and oogling.
We think of, people like me who know nothing about these things, think about you young people in India being quite innocent at this period. And if you've, like me, seen and enjoyed a few Bollywood films,
Yes.
you think there's a kind of innocent fairy tale approach to romance. That it's all rather lovely, musical, a lot of dancing. And
Frolicking.
and then it ends happily ever after.
Yes.
So did you think about romantic things in your head? What was going on in your head?
Do you know what? I had quite an innocent childhood, Gyles.
I'm sure you did.
I mean, my daughters don't believe this when I say it, but I had much longer hair. And I was 15. And my aunt would braid my hair in the mornings, and she would make me do one of two things. Either recite times tables up to 25, maybe I was even younger, I was 13, or recite verses in Sanskrit. None of this sort of listening to Bollywood music or certainly no social media. It was a constant focus on learning and tradition and values.
So at school, you're at this sixth form, basically, boys and girls.
Yes.
There is clearly a tug in your head between the traditional old world
Yes.
that you come from
Very much.
and the excitement of the new world. But you're clever. You're going to go to college. What's the college you're going to go to?
So I went to a small liberal arts college in America on the West Coast, outside of Los Angeles.
Because by now your father has become very much an international person. The business
The business has done well. And my parents can afford to send me to college abroad because it was expensive to go to a foreign university. But that is only possible because Infosys has done well. But, I had 3 jobs in college. So I still needed to contribute in some way.
But you were away from home.
But I was away from home.
The extraordinary thing is, here's this little girl from this this small town.
Yes.
This mango-eating little child.
Yes, speaking in Canada.
Speaking in Canada.
Yeah.
Brought up by a lovely grandmother and aunties, who is slowly blossoming, and now is suddenly sent to America.
Yes.
Aged 18?
18.
Hey!
Yes.
And yoy, here I am.
Yes.
But you've been doing philanthropy already. I mean, I read a lovely story about you teaching a boy who...
Yes, that's right. So when I was, I'll share another little story actually. So when my brother and I never celebrated our birthdays. So whenever it was our...
For what reason?
So whenever it was our birthdays, my mother would say, well, how much do you think a birthday party costs? She would sort of calculate and give or take 200 rupees, 300 rupees. And she said, well, instead of you guys having a birthday party, you can either pick a charity of your choice, or I will talk to you about a few different causes that might be meaningful to you, and we will go and give this money to that charity. And all I wanted at age 8 was, a birthday cake and balloons. And that wasn't what we did. And so yes, was that more than mildly annoying at age 8? Yes. Did all my friends have birthday parties? Was I invited to everyone's? Yes. But my mother said, no, this is just how we do things. And so age 16, or 15 actually, I was already thinking about how can I do things that in my own small way I can help others, impact others positively. And so she introduced me to a blind school, or school for the blind, sorry. I met this young man, his name is Anand, and such a bright young man. And I used to read to him, and I would scribe some of his exams. And that got me thinking, well, this is one person, but we should be helping so many more. And how can we do that? And my mother and I would talk about, well, what really is one's duty? Comes back to that word duty again. Is it to look after ourselves and our families? Is it to look after ourselves and the communities in which we live? Is it to look after ourselves, and communities, and something beyond? Those were the conversations I was having with her. I was about 15, maybe 16. And so that's when my parents had that discussion, and my mother founded the Infosys Foundation.
This is extraordinary, because with my daughters at that sort of age, we were watching Friends.
Yeah.
I don't think
we didn't get Friends in
I
India,
don't think I was
Gyles.
instilling any of these wonderful values. So this is the person who ends up in California.
That's right.
And you get a degree?
Yes, so I got my undergraduate degree in economics and French. And I was so close to my dad and valued his input so much. Every semester, I would send him my course catalogue, and it would take like 3 weeks to get to India, the physical mail. And he would give me suggestions for courses. And I would incorporate a lot of those suggestions. I really looked up to him. I really trusted him. And I'll say this, my dad has been my hero.
Mm. Well done him.
Yeah.
This is the way to do it.
Yes.
15 days a year, but I'm a hero. The mistake I made was being around my children all this time, because I'm certainly not their hero. Dearie me. This is an educational podcast.
Yes.
So is Rishi your first proper boyfriend?
No.
Oh.
I was very close to someone else. And it was one of the reasons, actually, I ended up picking Stanford in San Francisco, because he was based there.
And why didn't that go anywhere? Because you were too young?
No, because I met Rishi, Gyles.
Oh, competition. You met him out there, did you, Rishi?
I met him at Stanford University, where I was enrolled to get a master's in business administration, an MBA. And Rishi was there also.
What's he got? What does it take?
What's he got that the other person didn't?
What has he got? What did he have then? How old were you both?
We were 24.
Yeah.
We were just friends, actually, in the beginning. Rishi was this incredibly energetic, fun-loving British man. Everyone loved his accent. And I was his friend, and I would help him out because Rishi was always rushing around, and he was looking to buy a car but couldn't find a good deal. So sometimes I would drive him to places. That's how we got to know each other. And what I loved about Rishi is his complete love for his country. He would talk about the UK all the time. In the UK, the supermarkets are better because of whatever reason. In the UK, the gardens are better. In the UK, the education is better.
So far, he's certainly right about the gardens. Keep going. Did you counter that, though, with how much you loved your country, given this upbringing you had had of parents who were there to make India aware of the history and the importance and the contribution they've got to make? Did you fight back, or were you so wooed, seduced by him?
I wasn't wooed or seduced at all. Do you know what? I was intrigued because I hadn't met someone my age who spoke in that way. And so he reminded me a lot of my parents.
How quickly did you realise, actually, we're going to be a couple and this is going to go on?
Oh, only after we graduated.
Oh, so it was a while.
It was a while because I wasn't sure, because Rishi was quite honest with me very early on in the relationship, that if this has to work out, my home will be in the UK. And I wasn't quite sure about that. So it took me some time to make sense of it. You know, he knew what his path was. And then the question was, for me, do I follow his path or do I make my own? So I lived in San Francisco. Rishi lived in London. We had a 3-year long-distance relationship.
Gosh, so it can work. Because people say it can't work.
Yes, it was. Well, because we did have those couple of years together.
Yeah.
You know, so we were together and then we went off a bit. And it was hard. But it was also hard because I spent that time really questioning what I want.
Have you given up your life to actually his life, in the sense that you are an achieving person, you're doing great things together now, philanthropic things, like the Richmond Project, which we must talk about, but you have had 2 girls?
2 girls.
2 girls. Then he got into politics. Then you had to be a constituency wife. I know what it's like because I have one, and now I have a daughter who's an MP, so I know what being a constituency husband involves. He then quickly climbed the ladder, found himself Chancellor of the Exchequer, eventually found himself as Prime Minister, and then, it rained on his parade, and that came to an end. But the point is, we are meeting because I met you because I knew the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And I thought, you're brilliant. But I'm now sitting here, I'm realizing that you were brought up to make an impact on where you came from, your duty. That was India. You gave up your life for this man. Do you feel that sometimes?
I'll tell you what, Gyles. I think in so many ways, Rishi's life and my life and the coming together, the life we have created, is so similar to my parents. I think they individually could have done incredible things, but they came together, and I think the whole was genuinely greater than the sum of its parts. And I think I saw that in Rishi, and he inspired me, and he moved me. And I love Rishi, and I know Rishi loves me, and there's nothing we would not do for each other. But I don't even view it as a sacrifice. I view, it's interesting you say, I grew up in India, and I am proudly Indian. But there's something else my parents did for me, subconsciously, which is this concept of a nation is but a giant community. And whichever nation you make your home, you give to it. And you give to it in your fullest way. And the UK is my home.
Did you take it personally, or maybe you were spared it, but when Rishi, already when he was Chancellor, but particularly when he became Prime Minister, there was lots in the press about you being a hugely wealthy family, having had privileged childhoods. People didn't know the detail of your particular childhood, but basically it was, these are hugely, A, what could they know about real life? And B, are they paying their taxes? There was lots of stuff like that. Was it water off a duck's back? Did you notice it? Does it matter?
Look, I would be lying if I said some of that didn't hurt. I think it's never nice to have negative headlines in the press, and it's never nice when, especially when they're not quite true or they're sort of misunderstood. So that did hurt, but I also understood that this is the world of politics. I mean, you know that. And that's part and parcel of it. And you say, okay, this is what it is. And you move forward the best way you can. And that's really what I tried to do. I made changes. I didn't want there to be continuous distraction. And I realized that actually what really matters is why we're doing it, why Rishi is in public service, in elected office.
Were you able to laugh together
Absolutely.
Because do you remember, well, of course you won't have forgotten, the day that he announced the general election.
Yes.
And that terrible downpour.
Yes.
And the poor fellow, what does he do? Can't stop, he's got to keep going. So he gets drowned and then has to return. Were you in Downing Street that day?
I was. I was
like when he came back
behind
in
the window watching him. And I'll tell you what, it was tough. It was tough because that period was a tough time. And he goes out and, as you rightly say, he starts making the speech and the drops become what felt like a deluge. But hey, that's I think as we've spoken, you get on with it. And he got on with it and he came back inside. And my mother called me and she said, "Gosh, Akshata, you and Rishi are so lucky." And I said, "What do you mean?" And it was quite a busy day. It was chaotic. And she said, "Akshata, in Indian culture, when it rains, it's a sign of good luck.
Oh.
So it's actually auspicious to have rain when you have big moments. So during weddings, it's called barsat, the rain. So she said, how lucky are you that you had rain during this moment?" And that just took away whatever angst there might have been inside.
What was the best moment of being the Prime Minister's wife?
Oh, Gyles, I'll tell you, I love British history. So when I moved to the UK, my way of making sense of, North Yorkshire actually, when Rishi was selected and then elected as an MP, my way of making sense of that place was to read history. So when it was the coronation and sitting there in the Abbey and being and feeling a part of this incredible history, this thread of history that has been woven through 1,000 years, craning my neck to see King Edward's chair. I mean, I get goosebumps even as I talk to you about it. So that was really special.
You're only 46.
Not yet 46 in April.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you're only 45.
I'm only 45.
Only 45.
Yes.
And you have these parents.
Yes.
Your father founding this extraordinary company, one of the most successful in the history of India. Your mother, the best-selling children's author in India, who has founded tens of thousands of libraries. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in the next 30 or 40 years, Akshata?
I mean, look, as you rightly say, we are only 45. Our first endeavour and something that we are so proud of and we care deeply about is the Richmond Project. Which,
in a nutshell, is what?
First of all, named after Richmond in North Yorkshire, which is Rishi's patch, and he's still the local MP there. So the Richmond Project is all about transforming people's lives by giving them greater number confidence.
Is there anything you're ashamed of? Anything you didn't once say to somebody or you regret now? Something?
Gosh, I really have to think about that one.
Well, it's good. I mean, there's so many things that I'm ashamed of, or at least embarrassed by. It's wonderful.
I'm sure there will be some things that I will have regretted.
Give me one of those.
I'm having a complete mind blank at the moment.
That's okay. Because you are somebody who tries to be good.
Yes.
You try always to tell the truth.
Yes.
This idea of integrity is important to you. And what do you do to unwind?
Yes.
You and Rishi?
I read history. And I'm currently reading a book called The Man Who Knew Infinity.
Oh, given that's your name.
Yeah, that there you go.
Akshata means infinity. The Man Who Knew Infinity.
Yes.
Is this the autobiography of Rishi Sunak?
Hardly. It's about this incredible Indian mathematician who came to England to go to Cambridge in 1913 or 1914. He transformed the way we think about numbers, and his work is relevant even today, whether that be in AI or cancer research. But he had a very tragic life, I think. He died incredibly young at 32. But his work is still so prolific and profound. And so I'm reading his biography at the moment.
To me, as you know, because I'm a fan of yours,
Very
I love
kind.
you, I think you're wonderful. But to some people, they will think you are odd. There is something odd about your childhood, coming from this extraordinarily achieving family, all the wealth that you've been surrounded by. That you
Not grown up in, Giles.
No, I accept. I mean, the journey has been extraordinary. And also, there was hard graft. Your parents gave you up so that they could make the achievement. All that I'm taking. But people who don't know you will think, oh, isn't she odd? She's reading this book about a mathematician. She's like, oh, they are quite an odd couple, these two. Are you conscious of that? Are you conscious that other people do look at you as being a bit unusual? Does that bother you? Or have I got it totally wrong?
No, I mean, look, we have certainly had, one might say, an incredible life. One might say a life out of the ordinary. But then again, I've talked to you about my parents and their lives a bit, and that's who we are. And we are proud of that, and we're grateful to have the interest and the opportunities that we do.
3 more quick questions.
Yes.
A moment of joy from your life.
Do you know, since we have moved away from Downing Street, we've been able to spend more time together as a family. And there will be the odd moment. Well, actually, I shouldn't say odd. We have had some real cherished moments where Rishi and I and the girls come together and we're laughing or sharing
When
a
you
joke.
went down the street, were the girls living there as well?
One of them was, and one of them was a boarding school.
Because you had the flat. Did you have the flat above 11 Downing Street?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Which
right.
is a bit more spacious.
No, we had the flat above number 10.
Which is not so spacious.
Yeah, well, it was plenty spacious to us.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
You liked
lovely.
it? You were actually quite happy then?
Yes, it was. We made a home.
Good.
Yes. But anyway, now we are the 4 of us together as a family, and we won't be doing anything fancy, but we'll watch a film. We'll watch Friends, say.
Oh, good.
And have such, it's almost like I have this out-of-body experience looking in. And I say, wow, this is my family. And this is us coming together, and we have these connections, and that's sheer joy.
I'm so happy you're watching Friends, because I feared for a moment you're going to be doing mathematical puzzles with one another. That's going to be your idea.
Oh, no, Giles.
Good.
No.
You can be occasionally larky.
We watch way too much Friends.
And are your daughters going to end up in India, or do you think in the UK?
Oh, no. I'll tell you this, Giles. They are, if you wake them up in the middle of the night and ask them where they're from, they'll tell you North Yorkshire. They are girls of Indian heritage who live in the UK, but their identity is firmly rooted in North Yorkshire.
Because so much that's exciting is happening in India, from all I'm told, and I've been there.
Yes.
Whereas Britain, for many people, is sort of backward looking, or the past is the excitement for Britain, and the future is excitement for India. But you don't feel that, clearly.
No, absolutely not. And my children certainly don't feel that either. And Rishi and I are so excited to start a new chapter in the UK, which is home, which is our daughter's home, and which will be their future.
What has life taught you, Akshata?
You know that poem, Giles, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost? And I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. That has been the story of my life, and I'm proud of it, and I will not shy away from it. I think when I was younger, I tried a bit more to fit into the molds. But I think at 45, it's taught me that...
So you feel you've taken the road less travelled by, because the poem is about coming to in the wood.
Yes.
There's
Two
a
roads
choice.
diverged in a yellow wood, yes.
And you took the one that you feel not necessarily everyone else would have taken.
Yes.
And you feel that's rewarded you.
That has certainly been the making of me.
Well, I'm very glad the road you've travelled by today has included the Rosebud studio.
I'm honoured to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshata. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you did, please like and subscribe, because that helps us spread the word and more people can watch Rosebud, my favourite podcast, and I hope it's yours too. Bye for now.